Welcome to Fitzon's Property Exchange, hosted by Pearl Scheltema, designed to keep you informed and captivated about the South African residential property market. Subscribe to our channel today and enjoy conversations with some of the most influential, innovative, and interesting industry experts, stakeholders, and scheme executives as they render input in today's property market.
A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to Fitzon's Property Exchange. We're definitely going to discuss a very hot topic today. In terms of the Prescribed Management Rule 28.2 of the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act 8 of 2011, commonly referred to as the STSMA, a body corporate may, by special resolution, appoint an executive managing agent to perform the functions and exercise the powers that would otherwise be performed and exercised by its scheme executives or trustees. An executive managing agent means a managing agent appointed to carry out all the functions and powers of the scheme executive. According to CSOS, alternatively, members entitled to 25% of the total quotas of all sections may apply to the Community Schemes Ombud Service, CSOS referred to, for the appointment of an executive managing agent. The CSOS has recently placed an advert for a panel of executive managing agents and subsequently formulated a panel of such executive managing agents. According to CSOS, they have trained and educated all the panelists on their roles and responsibility towards the body corporate. The panelists also signed the CSOS Code of Conduct for Executive Managing Agents, something that I've never heard or seen before. The body corporate may select any panelist from CSOS of Executive Managing Agents in the desired province. If there is no panelist in the desired province, then a panelist may be chosen conducting business in other province. Should the body corporate be unable to choose panelists from this list, the CSOS may be approached to choose a panelist. In order to discuss this matter, we have invited Johlene Wasserman, Manager of Governance, Compliance and Enforcement at CSOS. Here to join us is Hendrik Hoffmann, Managing Director of Rise Properties, Willie Roos, from the CEO from Stratafin, and Marie Janse van Rensburg, CEO of MEMS Properties, situated in Pretoria. So, welcome all.
Morning.
Okay, we're ready to go. Marie, you have had extensive experience with CSOS, attending conciliations, adjudications, drafting of letters, applications, etc. What is your understanding from the functions of CSOS to date?
Paul, thank you very much for the invite. The mandate of CSOS is to regulate, monitor and quality assure scheme governance, documentation, develop and provide a dispute resolution service, provide training for conciliators, adjudicators and other employees of CSOS, and take custody, preserve and provide public access electronically or by other means to scheme governance documentation.
So, Johlene, how does one reconcile the appointment of managing agents and executive managing agents based on the above mandate of CSOS? Am I going a step too far to say, is it fair to say that CSOS is overstepping its mandate in this?
Good morning, Paul, and good morning, panelists, and thank you for the invite. I would like to advise that in addition to the functions of the Community Scheme Ombud Service, the CSOS, in Section 4, Subsection 2, it's also to promote good governance within community schemes. And we have to keep in mind that the CSOS is not only the custodian of the CSOS Act, but also of the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, where, as you've read previously in Prescribed Management Rule 28, there must be an appointment of an executive managing agent. And hence the CSOS has established such a panel to provide this service to the community schemes, specifically sexual title developments in South Africa.
Willie, would you like to take the questions further?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks for the opportunity. I think we would like to know whether there's any movement towards the extension of the purpose and the functions of CSOS contained in Section 2 and Section 4 of the CSOS Act that the public should be aware of. If there is, who's driving this extension and what is the goal of this extension? Is it driven by the Minister in terms of the CSOS mandate contained in Section 5 of the Act? If this is the case, or is this mandate open and transparent, and can we give input in respect of this mandate?
Thank you for the question, Willie. The CSOS has, from the beginning of last year, we have taken the current legislation, the CSOS Act, the CSOS regulation, together with the Sexual Title Schemes Management Act and regulations, and we have made amendments to these 4 sets of legislation. And we have amended it. We have sent our comments through to the Department of Human Settlements. They have collated it. They have provided their input into it. And it will, of course, be available for public comment, whereafter the public can provide answers and feedback and commentary on the proposed amendments of legislation, and of course add extensions or additions to the legislation what they would like to see in it. So definitely please keep an eye on, as our Department of Human Settlements will advise as soon as it's ready for public comment.
Is there any timeline to this, Johlene?
Unfortunately not. I'm not sure, but it is a very extensive process, and it's a very lengthy process in order to change a piece of legislation. As you know, it needs to go through Parliament, it needs to be approved, the President needs to sign it, and then only it becomes law. So it probably might take a few good months or even a year or 2 or even longer to pass the proposed amendments to the legislation.
May I just ask a question here, just to follow up on that then? If there are amendments on the card in respect of the Act, is CSOS entitled at this stage to actually act as if those amendments are already in place, and then appoint a panel which clearly is beyond the mandate currently as it stands in the Act?
Johlene, would you like to respond to that?
The CSOS is of the opinion that we are not overreaching our mandate and that it is part of our mandate. As I've stated, that the Sexual Title Schemes Management Act, we are the custodians of that piece of legislation, and we have to provide that service to our clients in sexual title developments.
I hear what you say, and I don't have a problem with the principle in this. I think the problem we on the panel do have is the fact that it comes down to prescribing who you may use and not use, and that is where the problem lies. But I'm going to go over to Hendrik.
May I comment on that, Paul?
Yeah, sure, you're welcome.
The CSOS has never said that you can only use the executive managing agents on our panel. The CSOS has set together, formulated a panel in order to assist the public who does not know who to go to appoint an executive managing agent. So it's not prescriptive. Nowhere in the legislation it says that CSOS will appoint an executive managing agent on your behalf and you will have to abide by the CSOS decision. It is merely we've appointed a panel in terms of the Sexual Title Schemes Management Act legislation. And if you do not have your own executive managing agent that you would like to appoint, then this is the panel that you can pick from should you come to the CSOS for assistance.
Okay, thank you for
So
that.
if I may then ask, are you then saying that at no stage will CSOS make the choice who to be appointed once a body corporate approaches CSOS? Or will there be circumstances where CSOS will actually say, make use of A, B, C, D, or E?
CSOS has got an approved panel of 14 panelists currently. So if there is a body corporate that approaches the CSOS will give them the 14 panelists. They are in alphabetical order, and their location is also indicated on the list into in which province they are situated and which they do business from. And then the respective scheme will select the province that they find most suitable. If it's in Durban, they'll find our panelists in Durban. I think there's 2 panelists in Durban currently. We will give both names, and we will also give out the contact details of both panelists, and then it's up to the scheme to decide on which panelist to appoint. If they cannot decide between the 2, the CSOS will have a meeting with them, find out their specific needs, and then take it further. But we would like to leave that in the client's hands, the body corporate's hands, as to whom to appoint at the end of the day. And I think that's very important.
We also, Johlene, we also believe that that is very important. However, I mean, if one looks at that letter that you wrote, or that was sent out by CSOS, I don't know if it was you, but that was sent out by CSOS, it actually said that should the body corporate be unable to choose a panelist, CSOS may be approached to choose the panelist on behalf of the body corporate. So it actually goes further than what you are currently saying. It actually says that CSOS will choose the panelist. And that opens a myriad of problems that can be caused as a result of that. And I think that is why we're asking these questions specifically. I think this is one of the pertinent issues.
Okay, Willie, thank you so much. I'd like to give the other members on the panel joining us today an opportunity too. I don't want us to get stuck on just one matter.
But Paul, can I respond to that? I don't want to leave it open-ended.
Okay, all right, respond.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, if a community scheme cannot decide upon a panelist, then the CSOS, through the Chief Ombud's office, naturally, and the Chief Ombud himself, will appoint a panelist from the CSOS's panel of executive managing agents appointed to the scheme.
All right. Thank you, Johlene. Hendrik, finally, I would like to offer the opportunity to you to ask the follow-up question.
Thank you, everyone. Johlene, so being an executive managing agent is quite a specialized position, especially since
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, especially since they've been compared to administrators. So you would need so much more than just sectional title knowledge. I'm thinking of things like financial acumen, problem-solving skills, business management skills. The applications for the panel was done on paper. So I want to know, what did CSOS do to ensure that these executive managing agents are actually qualified to take up the position? Were they interviewed? Did you obtain information on schemes that terminated their service and maybe interview them to see what the issues are with these agents? You also say that training was provided. So can you maybe just elaborate on what kind of training was provided?
Thank you, Hendrik. Thank you for the question. So the CSOS has placed an advert last year for a panel of executive managing agents. And on our advert, there was a whole list of criteria that they had to fulfill. So they have to attach, first and foremost, a valid fidelity fund certificate for the company, for the managing agent company, as well as for the principal member. Then, of course, we are passionate about transformation, so it was a level 1 or 2 triple BE certificate. Then there was professional indemnity cover that had to be attached, as also fidelity cover. We must keep in mind that there was also a very extensive company portfolio, as well as the resume of the principal member was attached. And that we've gone through that criteria extensively in order to see if they qualify or not. And our aim was, of course, to have an upliftment for Black managing agents that's not well known in the industry, and hence the qualifying criteria. We then launched the panel in November last year. Our 14 panelists, we trained them on the CSOS Code of Conduct. I know, Paul, that you've mentioned you've never seen this Code of Conduct. We do send it through to our strategic partners on a weekly basis, a communication. If you're not part of any of the strategic partners, such as NAMA or ARC, etc., please send us your email and we'll send you all the correspondence directly. So they were trained on prescribed.
Sorry, Johlene, just to interrupt, I am part of it and I've never received any documentation pertaining to the Code of Conduct.
I think you should take that up with NAMA. We send them weekly updates through NAMA, as well as the chairperson of NAMA. All the documentation was sent through last year, November. So the panel was launched. We've taken them through the code of conduct, what their duties are, what their rights and responsibilities are, what the rights and responsibilities of the members of the community scheme is. We've even drafted a service level agreement between the executive managing agent and their client that they may utilize should they wish to. The CSOS has not discussed any RAND value because that's between executive managing agent and the client, of course. The CSOS can well say that we have now put out a second advert for additional panelists on the panel of executive managing agents, and we are launching the panel next Monday, the 21st of February, and we have sent out appointment letters for additional 9 members, bringing the total to 23 executive managing agents on the CSOS's panel, and we are proud to say that they're all part of the historical disadvantaged groups. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So you're very proud to announce that. That would then mean that all the other companies all over South Africa that has had years of experience is automatically excluded as a result of the BBBEE compliance. Am I correct?
Remember that the CSOS has now, we are busy in the process of launching our transformation fund, and there is various aspects that goes in the transformation fund and the transformation enhancement fund, where we have identified 4 categories of groups of individuals and the percentages allocated to each of them that will benefit from the surplus funds of the CSOS that we send back to Treasury each and every year. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we would like to transform the property industry. It's a dominantly white industry, and we would like to see people of color and their companies coming up and also being noticed in the industry. However, with the CSOS's transformation fund, it must be stated that we are going to work with existing managing agents and perhaps incentivize them to take on individuals of the categories I've mentioned above. We also have in our transformation fund bridging finance or startup capital to individuals and groups. And obviously this will be discussed at a later stage once we have finalized the CSOS's transformation fund. There will then be a disbursement framework that will set up the funds and order how will we disperse these funds. But this is all very new. Nothing has been formalized as yet. I'm just mentoring CSOS in the future for now.
Okay, thank you for that. Also, you said it's very new. So I take note of the fact that there are funds available to contribute towards this transformation. I wish I had that little bump from the back 35 years ago. I had to pay my own. But nevertheless, Hendrik, you have another question.
Thank you, Paul. Johlene, so an executive managing agent, the idea behind it is to rather appoint an executive managing agent than an administrator. Administrators traditionally would be individuals, not companies. So I'm of the opinion that the list of executive managing agents should not be companies, it should be individuals. And the reason I'm saying that is my concern that should that expert person at the company leave the company or sell the company, the body corporate will be stuck in a contract with a company where they most likely will lack the skills to properly manage the schemes. And as a result, I also feel that CSOS should actually publish the names of the individuals who will be performing the function of the executive managing agent within the company.
Yes, correct. As per our advert, as I mentioned, yes, it is a managing agent company. However, there will be the principal member that will act as the executive managing agent. So each and every of our 14 panelists currently has got a principal member that will act as the executive managing agent. And yes, we would like to see the appointment of executive managing agents as opposed to administrators. And hence, when we conduct our training so vigorously in the industry, we advise members of community schemes that it would be best, if there is no board of trustees, to rather appoint an executive managing agent as opposed to a court-appointed administrator.
Okay.
Just a quick follow-up. So let's say somebody would like to appoint an executive managing agent from your panel. Would they be able to request the documents from CSOS, such as CVs, etc., etc.?
The CSOS will provide them with the contact details of the executive managing agent, and then they can follow up with the respective companies regarding the documentation.
Okay. Hendrik, do you have a last question on this matter?
I've got a little bit of a different question. Johlene, you will probably not agree with me, but I think that by compiling the list of panelists, even though most likely inadvertently, the CSOS seems to be endorsing these companies. And I would therefore think that it would be fair to expect CSOS to take full responsibilities for these executive managing agents. And I want to know what measures you put in place to ensure that these executive managing agents are performing during their appointment.
Good question, Hendrik. Thank you. Johlene?
So the CSOS ultimately, our ultimate goal as the CSOS is to see an empowered stakeholder across all boards, be it developers, owners, occupiers, members, managing agents. It's very important to us that you know your duties and your roles and your responsibilities, whomever you are in a community scheme. So at the end of the day, they have the personal indemnity cover, they have the fidelity fund certificate, they have the fidelity fund cover. So yes, they are our panelists for the next 3 years, and we are walking a path with them for the next 3 years. You will see our executive managing agents being visible at the training roadshows of the CSOS this Friday again when we are in Johannesburg. So they are there. They will exhibit on the day. They will tell the public about their services. So at the end of the day, they are covered adequately in any event by the policies I've just mentioned. And if we have a relationship with our panelists, and so we have a relationship with members of community schemes. And if there is any difference, or if there's any challenge or any difficulty, we engage with the panelists in order to ensure that the clients, our stakeholders, get an excellent service from the panelists.
Okay. Willie, would you like to take this matter further?
Yeah, I mean, for us that are a bit older and have been in the industry for a bit longer, we have seen a couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple of years ago, of a managing agent that has walked away with close on 100 million rands of schemes money. And the worry that I have is where CSOS has now decided to step into the arena, and if they appoint a managing agent, will they take responsibility if there are losses that has occurred as a result of the appointment of this executive managing agent? Because I cannot see that an executive managing agent would have insurance that could cover up to 100 million rand if there is a problem in that respect.
Remember, the legislation says that each and every managing agent must be covered adequately, or each and every community scheme. So the CSOS cannot be held personally liable, as there is no contract between the CSOS and the managing agent for them to perform services to us, the CSOS. It is where we've established a panel in order to assist the public that would like to appoint an executive managing agent and bring them in touch with the panel of executive managing agent should they not, or they cannot, or they don't know of who to appoint on their own panel as an executive managing agent. But the CSOS is not going to take responsibility for losses at the end of the day.
Okay, so if I sum this up, CSOS is there to govern their performance. So complaints can be registered at CSOS regarding the performance of or non-performance of an executive managing agent. But when it comes to safeguarding of the cost, that executive managing agent has to be registered as a property practitioner with a PPRA to have that fidelity cover.
That's 100% correct. We ensure good governance within community schemes, and we provide a service to community schemes.
All right. Marie, you've been quiet for a while. Any questions from your side?
Thank you, Paul. Johlene, are there any committees dealing with the issues as appointed by the board in terms of Section 12 of the CSOS Act? And if there are, who sits on these? Board members, non-executives, and industry specialists?
Thank you for the question, Marie. In our annual performance, on our annual report that's circulated annually, and the new annual report can be found on our website, you will see there the different board committees, who the board is. We've appointed a new board from January 2022. You will find all the members of the board, and it also consists of the chief ombud as well as the chief financial officer of the CSOS. So there is board committees that all the dealings of the CSOS fall into in terms of the annual performance plan, and the executive managing agent and the functions falls within the CSOS's training and education platform. Thank you.
Okay, lastly, on the matter of knowledge, experience, suitability, a list of executive managing agents, plus CSOS oversight and responsibility. Willie, would you like to make or to ask the last question on this matter before we move over to transformation of the industry, which we've already touched on?
I think Marie has asked the question, if these committees are open for public participation and scrutiny. I think that is where she is going to. And if it is, what does CSOS do to get public participation in this regard on those committees?
Johlene, would you like to respond?
I think that's why our board has been appointed in order to guide and lead us down the correct path as the CSOS. I know in terms of the CSOS legislation, there is what we call an advisory council, and that has not yet been established. And I think that would be the platform for public participation and commentary at the end of the day.
Okay. Right. We have said quite a bit, and I think we need to chew on this. Hendrik, you have a comment on the older guys, the ones that has been in the industry for years, and I would like to support you on this. I'm all for transformation, but in this regard, I kind of at the moment, unless you can convince me otherwise, feels like we are being thrown away. So, Hendrik, what is your question?
Yeah, Johlene, so obviously through your application process and your transformation goals, you've excluded some of the bigger and more established managing agents. Would it not make sense, at least initially, to involve those companies and those people? Because the whole purpose of BBEE is for the transferring of knowledge. And I hear what you're saying, that CSOS is walking a path with these executive managing agents, but where CSOS has a lot of knowledge and expertise on the Act, I think that by not having been managing agents, they lack a lot of the practical solutions that a managing agent usually deals with. So would it not make sense to get the more established guys involved to actually train these young companies and upcoming companies?
Thank you, Hendrik. I refer to my previous answer where I said that with the CSOS's Transformation Fund that we are in the process of setting up, we are going to work hand in hand with existing managing agents and perhaps incentivize these very experienced existing managing agents to take on the individuals, of the categories we've mentioned. We're talking about bridging finance or startup capital for these categories of people identified for transformation of the property industry. So yes, definitely, there's going to be multiple engagements with existing managing agents, because you cannot discard that years and years of experience that you are bringing to the table.
You make me feel a little bit better, Johlene, not much. Willie, please ask your question.
Yeah, I think that Johlene has answered that to a large extent. So I'm just asking Johlene, have you guys done any research regarding the numbers? How many of the current managing agencies are what one would consider previously advantaged companies, and how many of them are previously disadvantaged, the employee numbers, and so forth? Because I think at the end of the day, we need to work towards voluntary compliance with a transformation agenda where we can make sure that people's jobs and incomes are protect it, because I believe that there are lots of people in the industry that are previously disadvantaged, and by excluding those companies, one might get to the point where people will lose their jobs, and we will have an unintended consequence of that.
Thank you, Willie. I understand your concern. At the end of the day, of that 14 panelists, how many of those panelists do you know? How many of those managing companies do you really know? I'm sure it's not a lot, So we have done our research. We do this in terms of also with the triple BE certificate. With a level 1 or level 2, it's 100% black ownership or 100% black female ownership. So, and that we can see in the industry, there's not a lot of a level 1 or 2 triple BE certificate. There's a lot of, and you can see it. We don't need even to do a research on it to see that the property industry is simply not transformed at the end of the day. There is just simply not a lot people of color managing agents around. And it's predominantly white, and that is what we would like to change. And that's why we're giving the opportunity to these community, to these managing agents, that's been around for 20, 30 years, but you don't know of them because they're not as big or established as such of the existing managing agents we all know by name. But as I would like to emphasize, going forward, the CSOS is not going to discard or throw away any of the experience and the knowledge and everything the managing agents out there that is not, people of color managing agents. We're not going to throw that away. We need your skills and expertise to take the hands of ourselves, as well as our panelists, as well as each and every other managing agent. Remember, we are all fighting for the same thing in this industry, and that's to have a transformed and an empowered industry where we all know our rights and responsibilities, and that we can move forward, and that we see less complaints and more good governance within community schemes.
Johlene, thank you so much for that powerful ending. I'd like to thank Willie, Marie, Hendrik for their participation as well. They've really placed you on the hot seat, Johlene, and I think you handled it very well. So thank you so much for everyone's participation. We will definitely speak again soon. And before we end off, Johlene, would you please just repeat, if our listeners want to have obtain more information about CSOS, their functions, where can they get hold of them?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, panelists. Yes, they can contact me, Johlene Wasserman, 066-302-5408. We also have a training show this 18th of February, this coming Friday, at the Capitol Hotel in Sandton. We would like everybody to attend if they can. We have up to 150 seats on the day. And for all your training needs or anything that you might need from the CSOS, you can email me at Johlene, Johlene, .Wasserman, it's Wasserman, at csos.org.za. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This was Fitzan's Property Exchange, hosted by Pearl Scheltema. Not only do we keep you informed on the very latest in the property industry, we also empower by expanding your knowledge base. Make sure to visit www.fitzan.co.za to find out more about sectional title scheme management, letting, sales, and trustee training. Remember to subscribe to our channel and follow us on all our social platforms.